Yeah.
Oh, there's Scott. Okay.
Text him.
Yay. Hi, everyone. This is Sue from DiscoverYourIBooks.com. We are here today to talk about our brand new book, Discover Your Identity. And we're going to be interviewing some of the authors from the book. We had such a great time doing this first one in the series. DiscoverYourIBooks.com. That is what we are striving for, doing a series of books. The next one we're planning on doing is Discover Your Inspiration. We also have Intuition, Intention, Image, a whole bunch of different books that we're going to
Intimacy,
yes, because of Susan, and she's going to tell you all about that soon. So right now, what?
I said TMI. Susan's going to tell us all about intimacy.
Yes, very much.
It's all about love and passion
closeness,
and attraction and, all that good stuff.
Oh, this is going to be fun. So this is going to be a great show today. Okay, so the book, I just want to give you a really quick synopsis of how it gets started. I wanted to write a book about my story. Identity is really, really big, important part of my life because I gave up 13 years of my identity for my ex-husband, who was a musician, and I basically helped him become a rock star. But I gave up my dreams and everything that I wanted to do. I was a teacher. I gave up my education, my teaching career, and my identity was a musician's wife. That's what people knew who I was. And when the marriage ended, and then I ended up in a horrible car accident, and I was in the hospital for 3 weeks with brain injury and all kinds of stuff. I'm full of titanium. I really was laying there thinking that I had no friends and nobody really knew who I was. And when I woke up to a room full of people who were there, standing there, looking at me, I'll never forget that first vision when I opened my eyes, and they were all there because I actually meant something to them. So now I am the rock star in my life, and I gained my identity. And when I wanted to write my story, I thought, there's a lot of people in the world that have amazing stories, and I'd rather share a book with them. And the two ladies sitting here with me have just phenomenal stories. I'm so excited that you guys are here today. So I'm going to go ahead and start with, who should we start with? Let's start with Karen. She's the one who's up late because she's on the East Coast. So Karen, why don't you tell us why you decided to be in the book and maybe a little bit about your story?
Sure. Well, you asked me to. So.
Well, you are our publisher, so we sort of have to include you.
True. Well, it's interesting because, I've been in publishing for 30 years, and I've been working with hundreds and hundreds of different authors, and yet I was never a writer myself. So I thought that this was a tremendous opportunity for me to get my feet wet, actually, to kind of try my own hand at writing.
Yay!
Hi, Scott!
One of the two men authors in our book. So excited you're here.
The guys are here.
Yay!
Yay!
The guy.
Well, Joe is sick.
Guy.
I'm using my mobile hotspot, which is like lightning fast.
Oh,
all
good.
Right.
Okay, so I was just telling everyone that we're going to start with Karen. We went through how the book got started, what my idea was for it, and then Karen.
You didn't bring enough wine, Susan.
What?
You didn't bring enough wine, Susan.
Well,
Susan,
I'm willing to share my wine, but you have to come here to Northern California to get it.
I'm sorry.
Empty. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and we're going to let Karen go ahead and start. The question that I asked her, Scott, was why she decided to be in the book. She said it's because I asked her to, and I said because she's our publisher, she kind of had to. So now she's going to go ahead and get started. Go ahead and finish what you were talking about now that we have Scott in the room.
Great. So, and then I was also saying, Scott, that for 30 years I've been in publishing, and I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of authors, but I've never actually written anything myself. And I've been actually thinking about it for quite a long time. So I thought this was going to be a terrific opportunity for me to try my hand at writing without actually having to write a whole book. And it was a tremendous experience for me because I was anxious about it. I didn't know what I was going to write about. What does that really mean to me? Discovering my identity. Was it personal? Was it business? Was it in friendships? Was it, it could have been a whole host of things. And I was talking about what I should do with some of my closest friends out here. And then all of a sudden it hit me that what really happened was my mother was a big part of who I was or was not growing up. And I had such a tenacious relationship with her. It was hot and cold, hot and cold. I felt the love and support that I needed, that a girl should get from her mother. And it was very, very confusing. And when she died, when I was almost 30, it's weird to think about today that I'm 60 and my mother was my age when she died. So it really gave me the chills. This whole year has been quite a tumultuous year for me. And so it was, I thought about, I guess I also went through the idea of if I were to reveal such an intimate side of myself and a story that only my closest friends really know, what will that mean for me? Will I be able to essentially be able to handle the nakedness, if you will, the whole, I'm really bearing my soul. And I decided then that it was all or nothing, that I really should, if I was going to do this, then I was going to do this and be authentic and tell a story that was meaningful to me. So the story is called Mama's Girl, and it's about the way in which my mother treated me, and I basically how I had no real self-esteem because she would basically tell me that I was, she would show me pictures of really obese women and in magazines, and then she would tell me that this was me in 10 pounds.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And so, and she would taunt me with things like when I was 16 or 17, if you lose 30 pounds, I might consider introducing you to some of my friends' sons. So it just kind of went on and on like that. And it was a battle. And I was always chasing my mother's love and support. And it was always about superficial things. She would take me I grew up on Long Island, and she would drive me like 50 miles every few weeks or so to a hair salon where they would thin my hair. Because at that time I had very thick curly hair, and she grew up in the age of Twiggy. And so everybody should be a stick figure and should have long, thin, blonde hair. And that was so not me. And I'm an Ashkenazi Jew, for God's sakes. Nobody looks like that ever. So, it doesn't happen. So, my mother, it took me a long, long time and a lot of therapy to really figure out that these were my mother's issues and really not mine. And so it was when I went for therapy, I worked it out. Took me many years to work it out. It affected every single relationship I ever had. And to some point to this day, it still affects my relationships, although I'm much more cognizant about it. But it was finally when I was able to forgive her, because she was not, it was her issue. It was her problem. It was, I think in her own way, she really did try to love me. And in her own way, she really was thinking this was the best for me. She really tried to give me the tools to live my best life, or what she considered the best life, which was to get married, raise children. She always said, you could not be a successful woman unless you were married and had children. That was her idea of success. And so I had to forge my own way and create my own values and to really believe in those values so that I could replace her values with my own and really create my own personal identity and be really happy with that. And so that was a real turning point for me.
Oh, that's what a great story. Wow.
Thank you.
There was something with oh boy.
Yeah,
Are you hearing twice?
you're dropping in and out.
Oh, okay. Susan, go ahead and take over for a minute. You can ask some questions.
Okay. Hey, Scott, why don't you tell us, why did you decide to join this book and tell us about your identity crisis?
Well, number one, I saw the booth, like everybody else did, that became part of this. But I think the biggest reason was I took it, and it sounds like Karen did as well, I took it as a form of therapy, if you will. I had never really told my story outside of, so kind of like support groups, if you will. And having grown up in a really messed up environment, alcoholism, drug use, so forth and so on, I figured that if there was a message anywhere in my life, it was in there. And I decided that this, we're all taught through various channels that one of the best ways to sort of promote yourself and promote what you're doing is to be completely authentic. And I couldn't think of a better way to be authentic than to put myself out there, and all the while knowing that I was really violating the 3 big rules I learned growing up, which was don't talk about what's going on, certainly don't trust anybody, and whatever you do, don't tell people how you feel, because those are just not allowed. And anybody who has ever grown up in a house affected by alcoholism, and I've got a feeling that this is going to be kind of an offshoot of the other things that I do anyway, in terms of business wise. I've got a feeling that based on this book and whatever other books I decide to contribute to, that this is, there you go, bingo.
Uh-oh.
Karen left.
Oh, somebody. Whoops.
Go, come on
Okay.
in.
We lost
Karen.
you. All right, we'll
Anyway.
put Karen. Well, I have to say something, Scott, real quick. I remember when you sent your first draft of the story, and it was very short and not quite as detailed as it ended up.
Mhm.
And I remember sending you, Susan and I actually sent you an email that basically said, come on, we want more. You need to add more, tell more. And I remember you wrote back, thought, well, I don't know. Do you think I should really write the more detailed, gory stuff? And it's like, yes, get it out there. And, what's amazing is a lot of the authors in the book, besides just you, said that it was therapy for them to
Sure.
tell their stories and get it out there in the world, just like Karen. I mean, amazing story to just go and just to be able to take all those emotions that you went through as a child and how you overcame them and actually just put it out there for the whole world to see. And I'm just so proud of both of you guys for doing that.
Thank you.
There's on my end, I've been thinking about this, and there is some sort of program or some sort of something there that I know would benefit a ton of people outside of the book, and I'm just trying to figure out what that something might be down the line that can be kind of a next step from what the story is. So it's really good.
No, it's
I
amazing.
believe it. It's amazing. Your story was really very touching. Karen's, yours as well. Totally emotional and reaching out to people who probably would be intimidated about sharing their own stories. And when you share a story that's as vulnerable as both of you shared, it touches people. It touches people in a way that they don't expect to be touched.
Mm.
And that's really was the goal of this entire series of iBooks that we started. The first one, the identity book, is obviously Sue's identity thing. But I mean, I had my own identity crisis. It's admirable that you're willing to just like bare your soul and step forward and say, okay, so this is my story. I hope it reaches somebody.
Right. I think, when I was doing it too, once I decided I was going to do this and then I sat down one night to write, it just poured out of me, and it just kept writing and writing and writing till I was almost like exhausted, but it felt really good and it just came out. And I didn't stop to edit. I just kept, the memories kept flooding, and it was really, I want to thank you both. I mean, Sue, this is a tremendous idea, and it helped me. And like Scott, I hope this can help other people as well, on so many levels, not just a personal level. I know that there are a lot of young girls who experienced pretty much the same thing, the kinds of things that I went through, for sure.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But even as an author, as we are taught to, just get out there and write and to help your business. Just from that point of view, this kind of series really will help prospective authors, dip their toe in the water and really see. And I don't know that it's simple or easy, but if you write about what you know and write about something authentic that you feel, I think it just comes right out of you. I really believe that. And even my friend Melody, who's also in the book, she's an editor. She's a tremendous editor, and I sent her the story, to help me. And she had very minor grammatical things to change, but she said this was a very moving story, and I really have no changes to make, and that was amazing to me because she's critical of everything. So.
That's really cool. The really cool thing about this book and bringing all these stories together, I started thinking about this girl who gave me a book. She was in a wheelchair. She was completely paralyzed all the way down. She'd been an athlete. She had really compelling story, and she had written a book about, being this person and going through all this and being paralyzed and all these things. And her story was really, really compelling. And, I started telling my story, which seemed so ridiculous and small and insignificant compared to hers. But what was interesting is when I started telling my story of the things that happened in my life, the divorce and an accident and all those things, I found that people more resonated with stories like all of ours because they're real people stories. It's really hard to connect with someone who's in a wheelchair, who's paralyzed. There's no way we can actually really feel a connection with that, even though it is really compelling. But there are a ton of people in this world that can relate to all of our stories. There's a lot of people in there that grew up with mothers that did those kind of things to them, and the alcoholism and all those kind of, and a lot of people have been through divorce and accidents. So that's what I really love about this whole thing, is you guys bringing your real stories, and I really think we're going to touch a lot of hearts with all.
I think so too. So I know that Joe DiChiara is here. I don't know if you noticed.
Yeah. So does someone want to give up their seat for a minute? And we'll let Joe jump in.
Yeah, I'll give up my seat so Joe can talk.
Okay, cool. All right.
I'll stick around. All right.
Okay,
Bye.
great. Bye.
Joe, jump
Bye,
on.
Karen. Bye. Love you.
Okay, Joe, just go ahead and click join, and we'll get you in here. This ought to be a lot of fun.
There
And
he
two
is.
guys, I'm so excited. You guys are so special. I'm so happy that you joined us. So hopefully Joe will get connected here.
Hey.
Hi, Joe.
Hi, Joe.
Hey. How are you feeling? I know you're sick.
I'm feeling better.
Good. Did you drink that bottle of whiskey I told you to drink?
No, I just got the message. I'll go out and buy one.
I told him it was a bottle, and then I thought, well, maybe it's a shot. I don't remember what it was. So, Joe, why don't you go ahead and tell us why you decided to be in the book, and tell them a little bit about your story and maybe how it made you feel to write this.
That's a good question. To be honest with you, I was listening and I said, why did I agree to be in this? And the truth was that I just like being part of something that's cool, and I thought that this would be a real thing to be in. I had no idea what I was really signing up for. How could I say no to you and Susan?
But,
Well,
your story is really, really good and really compelling. So if you can can you tell a little bit about your story and what, how it affected your identity today?
Yeah, sure. But I have to tell you that I was absolutely right that I did get into something that's really cool. And I'm glad. I'm reading these stories and I'm really touched, It's a really good book. And I'm really proud
Thanks.
to be in it.
No, it
And
is.
actually, my story, I'm reading some of your stories, and I'm like, oh my God, this is, I feel like almost insignificant.
Not at all. Your story blew my mind. I love your story.
All the stories, Scott, all the stories. Susan, I know you wanted to be a boy, but there's nothing you can do about it.
Only,
You could
only for
still
a short
be around.
time. Only for a short time, Joe.
But I got to tell you, when I started writing, what came out wasn't what I thought I was going to write.
Really?
It
What do you
made
mean?
me go back, and I was actually just talking to my aunt, who was a big part of my growing up. She was a big part of that whole part that I wrote about, living in Lower Manhattan. And we were talking, I lived in a 3-room apartment, not 3 bedrooms, 3 rooms. There was a kitchen, a living room, and a bedroom. And there
Wow.
when my brother was born, there were 6 of us. But that was normal. That's how my parents grew up. That's how my father grew up. We
Wow.
grew up around Little Italy, and then it was Chinatown. Now it's all Chinatown. That's what my aunt was saying. But, we were happy. We had a lot of good times. I did a lot of stuff. I never felt like I was, without anything. That's what my family, how they were. We were just a happy Italian family. We ate together. We played together. Everything was about the family.
Wow.
And then, I grow up and I said, oh my God, we were broke. But, and it just made me realize, I said, you know what? And it's just what, I spent a long time trying to become rich,
Wow.
a long time. Because, I was the one, once I found out that we were broke, I said, you know what? I'm going to make us all rich.
Oh,
But, we didn't need that. That was my perception. So I spent a long time being an entrepreneur, trying to become, the next Andrew Carnegie, if that's possible. But, I was going to make all this money and then give it all away. I'm still working on that, so I'm still a work in progress. But,
Joe, your goals are too small. I'm sorry.
yeah, well, I can. Don't get me started.
You can contribute to my foundation, Joe. I'll take donations.
Well, I learned that charity begins at home. So, but, so I've been on this whole journey, self-awareness the last 10 years, only to discover that money really isn't as important as I thought it was. And, it's so when I was writing this book, with this chapter, it all just brought it back home for me. I'm like, yeah, you know what? It's really about family, about your friends, about the people that are around you. Everybody should have plenty of money, but it's not like we should go chasing it to try to be happy. It's just, it's the old saying, money didn't buy happiness. So, I'm still an entrepreneur, but I do it now for really the excitement. I love it. Right before this, I got to teach a class. And in the book, I talk about that. That's really my identity, where I love teaching, I love learning. And so that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Awesome, Joe. I'm so excited that you guys are in the book. I was surprised that we had mostly women, but you guys are in there, so I was super excited about it. And your two stories are two of the most compelling ones, so really excited about that. So let's go ahead and talk to Susan since she hasn't got to tell hers yet. So go ahead, Susan.
So, okay. So my story starts out with saying that I think the first line is, I wanted to be a boy more than anything else in 1959. And what happened with that was this. I'm the firstborn of 6 in our family. My next sibling is a sister, and then a brother, and then another sister, and then 2 more brothers. And I was born in the 40s. So by the time I was in high school, I didn't know any better. I mean, I was doing what everybody told me to do, which was to be a great student, to be a good student. So I was an honor student, and I was doing really well in school and getting really good grades. And everybody was encouraging me to take college prep courses and be on the honor society and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, all right, fine, I'll do that. And thinking that, I'll get to go to college. And so about the time it was time to fill out the application forms when I was a junior. Well, before that, what happened is this. I kind of wanted to be an engineer. I was really fascinated with the way things worked. And so I think it was my junior year, I decided I was going to take a course in mechanical drawing. And the most shocking thing happened to me is the school told me I couldn't enroll in that course because I was a girl. And I'm like, what do you mean? I can't take a class that I want to take about mechanical drawing and learn how to draw things because I'm a girl? What does that mean? And so I appealed to the school board, and I petitioned them, and they came back with, no, you cannot take this class in mechanical drawing. We recommend you take some home economics classes instead. And I didn't know what to do. I was like so upset. I was like, well, what do you mean? And so then I talked to my dad, and my dad said, well, we know you just want to take that class because you want to hang out with all the boys. And I'm like, no, that's not it at all.
I can see that, can't you, Joe?
Oh, yeah. Sounds right to me.
And so I sort of got over that, but I wasn't happy about it, But then my junior year, we started applying for colleges. And so I take the paperwork home to my parents, and I say, okay, you need to fill out the financial part so that I can go to college. And my dad says, well, you're not going to college. And I'm like, what do you mean I'm not going to college? And he said, well, there's no money for you to go to college. We bought these insurance policies on you kids when you were born, $10,000 for the boys and $1,000 for the girls. And I'm like, why would you do that? And well, because you girls, you're just going to get married and get pregnant and have kids. And that $1,000 is going to mature to $2,000. That'll pay for your wedding. Whereas the boys, they have families to support, so they have to go to college. I was not happy. Let me tell you that I was like, I didn't know what to do. I was almost speechless. I was like, what do I do? I don't understand. That's not okay. My initial thought was, okay, so how the hell am I going to go to college on $2,000? Because I sure as hell am not getting married, and that was my perspective at that point. So I started doing research to figure out how I could go to school, how could I go to post high school on $2,000. And what I found was that I could go to nursing school that was associated with a university, Northwestern University, to Evanston Hospital, a 3-year program where you go to school year-round for 3 years. It paid room and board and for the education for $2,000. And I'm like, okay, that's it. I'm doing that. I didn't really want to be a nurse, but it was like my way out. It was the way that I was going to go in order to do that. And so that's what I did. I went to nursing school, and I hated nursing school. I really hated it. I didn't like having to stand up when the doctors walked in the room. I didn't like having to chart about people's bowel movements and their, their sleep patterns. And I certainly didn't like having to wear the stupid uniforms we had to wear, which they literally measured that the pinafores, we had blue uniforms with white pinafores and white hats, little nurse hats. And they measured our uniforms so that they were 12 inches from the ground. So everybody's wearing mini skirts at Northwestern, and I'm wearing this stupid looking uniform with a white pinafore that was measured, 12 inches from the ground. And I'm like,
we need to see.
Oh, yeah,
that, I think.
I don't think so.
So I have a question. So, you went through all of those kind of things, and now you are a relationship expert. How did that happen? How did that identity of being a relationship expert come from being a nurse and going through all of
what
those
happened
kind of
is, when I graduated, I did finally graduate, although I was in trouble most of the time that I was in nursing school because I was sort of a rebel. I know none of you could imagine me being rebellious, but I was. And anyway, so when I finally graduated, I said, well, where can I work that I don't have to do any of this stuff that I hate doing? And it turned out that the only place that I could really work was the emergency room. And ironically, it turned out that I actually loved it. I loved the chaos and the confusion and the unpredictability and the fact that the nurses in the emergency room actually saw the patients first and they got to direct the doctors. And so what ended up happening was that I ended up being an emergency room nurse for for 40 years. And I saved a lot of lives and made a lot of big difference. And I did a whole lot of crisis intervention. And so when I finally got to the point where I said, okay, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. I thought, well, what am I going to do? And I had been married for 23 years to a wonderful man who was a Vietnam vet with PTSD, and we had a lot of drama in our relationship. And ultimately, I ended up divorced from him. And then I decided that, okay, I needed to learn how to do relationships better because there's got to be a better way of doing this than what I was doing. So I took all the relationship courses I could find for my own benefit, not because I was going to teach it or anything else. It was just because I wanted to know how to do it better. Because I figured if I failed the first time, how could I do it better the second time? And ultimately, that's how I was actually a business coach. I was teaching people how to do small business development. I worked with Michael Gerber for a couple of years. And then I started dating a young man. He was 18 years younger than me. And he was firstborn son of 7. He was Persian and Jewish and everything that I wasn't, And I took these courses and I learned how to do relationships. And so he and I only dated for a short time because his mother and I were the same age. And then what happened was he went back to dating his old girlfriend, who eventually asked me to coach her. She said, okay, I've been watching. He's different with you than he is with me. it's like I've had his body and you've had his soul, and I want you to teach me how to do that. And I went, I don't think so. I don't even trust you as far as I can see you. But she kept asking me. And so ultimately,
Are we losing
what
Susan?
happened?
Can you guys hear her still?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. So anyway, she became my first client, and that was 25 years ago. And it was just a real learning experience for me to teach people how to own their power, teach women how to own their power, because really women have the power in relationship. They do the choosing, they do the ending, they basically they steer the relationship. And it's what I learned. And so what I became out of all of this was, besides being somebody who saved people's lives for real, in medicine, I became a relationship coach who saves people's lives emotionally. And so what I do now is I'm a healer. I really work with people who have broken hearts or wounded hearts, and I teach them how to love again. And that's how I got where I am. And that's pretty much the crux of the story that's in the identity book, because I went from not having a clue what I was going to do with my life and wanting to be an engineer to becoming a nurse and then becoming a relationship expert and healing people's broken hearts and teaching them how to love again. And I'm a healer and I'm an influencer. And that's what I learned about my identity. So I sort of went on a tirade here. Didn't mean to take over the whole thing, but that's my story. And I'm sticking to it too.
Good job, Susan. I think we lost Sue, so you should.
I think we did.
We lost Sue.
We lost Sue for a minute. She'll be
All right,
back.
it's all up to you, Joe. Come on.
I'm not qualified.
Anyway, what we're doing right now is we really are looking for people who have stories about inspiration. And probably Sue and I will write another story about inspiration. I don't know what inspirational story I'll write, maybe about saving somebody's life, or I don't know. I have no idea.
I would say you must have some kind of stories. I would love to hear that.
I have a lot of ER stories. A whole lot of crazy ER stories.
Can I ask a question? Have
Sure.
you been in like any kind of life-saving situation and then you met up with somebody that you affected their lives later on?
Absolutely, yes. Yes, without question.
How did that feel?
It's an amazing thing, because when you actually save someone's life and they recover and then they come back and they say, I just want to thank you for saving my life. It's a phenomenal experience.
I could see now how your relationship thing can tie into that too, because
Yeah,
you
it does.
people that are, you said it.
Oh, people who've had broken hearts and wounded and don't know what to do next, and really those are my favorite kind of clients, the ones that are like lost. It's like, okay, I'd like to be in a relationship, but I have no clue what to do next. And those are my favorites. I love those people. And I've affected people's lives where they're in long-term relationships. I have clients who've been married for 20 and 25 years.
Wow.
So it's really been an adventure. Honestly, it's been an adventure. And, I've had 4 or 5 other careers, actually 6 or 7 other careers as well. I am somewhat of a serial entrepreneur, crazy, Oh, let's go this way. Okay, let's go this way. All right, let's do this now. I have been known to do those things, which is kind of how we got the calendar too.
Yeah, that's a whole nother story.
That's a whole nother story. We're not even going there tonight.
I feel very comfortable just in case I ever have a broken heart. I know exactly who to go to.
Anyway, I don't know what happened to Sue. I think we lost her, but I don't know if there's anybody else that wants to join us, but I think we've kind of exhausted the subject tonight and talking about it. We're looking for people to submit their stories. Go to discoveryouribooks.com and you can put a story in there and say, I'd like to be published in your next book. And we welcome anybody to join us. And we know that people have amazing stories. Everyone has amazing stories. It's not just us. Literally every single person on the face of this earth has an amazing story to tell. They just really don't know how to tell them. And what we're trying to do with this Discover Your iBook series, and how I'm involved is actually I am the publisher. My Getting What You Want company, Getting What You Want Incorporated, has a Getting What You Want publishing subsidiary. And it's because I have a whole bunch of books that I want to publish on my own. But then Sue said, let's do the Discover Your iBooks. So we're doing Discover Your iBooks. We're doing the Women of Class calendar. And we're doing all of my books as well. And anybody else who wants to publish a book free and clear, you can come publish your book through Getting What You Want Publishing. It's all about getting what you want in your life. And everybody has different things they want in their life. So I welcome all of you to come, submit your story to discoveryouribooks.com. And I kind of think we're done for tonight. What do you guys think?
Yeah, Susan, you're planning on how many in the series?
11.
So the people who are listening?
There's
11.
11
Okay.
books, yeah.
So everybody, I'm looking at the audience count, everybody who is listening in would fit into one of those 11. Without
Absolutely.
question.
You know,
So the field is wide open, folks.
it's wide open. We're gonna do one on investments or income. We haven't quite decided the title. One on image or body image or life image. We're doing one on intimacy, stories about intimacy. I even think we need to do one on infidelity because there's a whole lot of people who've experienced some sort of infidelity in their life, and it has changed their life for the better and
That'll be
improved,
an authors.
improved their relationships. And then there's influence, and I can't even remember all the I titles. We went through the dictionary in the I section, and there's probably about 65 or 70 different I titles we could go with that are just wide open, that people have stories that would relate, you know.
Awesome.
It's an amazing thing. Sue came up with a great idea, and I'm just excited about the possibility of participating in it. So anybody who's got a story that wants to share with us, go to discoveryouribooks.com, write your little story in there and submit it, and we'll consider you to be one of our next authors. And you guys, you know, you all have more stories to tell too. So
I would add one more thing, Susan. Anybody, I'm assuming I can
absolutely,
speak for
please.
you other two. Anybody who wants to follow us on Twitter or on Periscope,
Yes.
you see our
Oh, and you
ad
guys, give your
signs.
websites, please. Give your websites.
Yes.
Joe?
Joe, go ahead.
Oh, my website is bedrockbookkeeping.com.
All right. Mine is my name, www.scotttransu.com. Just write down the pink name and put a www dot in front of it and a .com after it, and you'll find it.
And Karen's back. What's
I'm
your
back
website?
just for my website. You can go to www.rockstarpublishinghouse.com or www.straussconsultants.com. And on Twitter at KB Strauss.
And mine is
And I'll be periscoping at least once a day, probably starting early next week or even late this week. So look for me on the scope and feel free to chime in.
And I'm going to do some blabs on getting what you want about relationships and invite some of my former clients and some of my friends and some of the people who have questions, and anybody who wants to talk about relationship is certainly going to be welcome to come to gettingwhatyouwant.com. I think the first one's going to be something like Dating After 40, No More Excuses. I have a little book by that title, and we're just going to talk about all the myths that go along with dating after 40 and how people get intimidated by the idea of dating after 40.
Sounds good.
So,
Cool.
all of you guys, you're welcome to join us anytime. And thank you for sharing with us tonight. And I think we're going to end for the night.
Okay,
All right.
I can go to sleep. I have to walk my dog and go to sleep now.
All right, you do that. You too,
Bye.
Joe.
Bye, Joe. Bye,
Bye,
Scott.
Joe. Bye,
Susan.
Scott. Good night, all of you guys.